Welcome to Mock Interview Pro. If you're gearing up for an interview as an ombudsman, you've come to the right place. Today, we'll dive into key questions you might face and how to tackle them with confidence. Let's kick things off with a question about conflict resolution. Could you share a time when you successfully mediated a conflict between two parties? This question is asked to see how well you handle disputes and bring people together. Let's talk about some tips to help you answer this question effectively. Clearly identify the conflict and the parties involved. Explain your role in the mediation process. Describe the steps you took to facilitate communication. Highlight the outcome and any follow-up actions. Use the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. Now, let's look at an example answer to bring these tips to life.
In my previous role, I mediated a conflict between two team members who had differing opinions on how to approach a project. I arranged a meeting that allowed both of them to share their perspectives. I encouraged active listening and sought common ground. The outcome was a compromise that satisfied both parties, which ultimately improved team collaboration.
By the way, we're only covering a handful of questions in this video, but I've prepared a free PDF with all 30 top interview questions for ombudsmen. It also includes example answers and tips to help you prepare with confidence. The download link is just below. Tell me about a situation where you had to explain complex information to someone not familiar with the topic. How did you ensure they understood? This question assesses your communication skills, especially how effectively you can simplify and convey complex information. Here are some strategies to keep in mind when answering this question. Choose a specific instance where you explained complex information. Break down the information into simpler parts or concepts. Use analogies or relatable examples to clarify your points. Encourage questions to ensure understanding. Confirm their understanding by asking them to summarize what they've learned. Let's explore an example answer to see how these tips come together.
In my previous role, I had to explain a new compliance regulation to a team unfamiliar with legal terms. I broke it down into key components and used real-life scenarios to illustrate its relevance. Throughout the discussion, I welcomed questions and later asked a few team members to summarize the regulation back to me, which confirmed their understanding.
Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision that was unpopular? How did you handle the outcome? This question evaluates your decision-making skills and how you handle the repercussions of tough choices. Let's go through some helpful tips for crafting your response. Select a specific situation that involved a tough choice. Clearly explain the reasoning behind your decision. Acknowledge the unpopularity of the decision and its impact on others. Describe how you communicated your decision to those affected. Reflect on what you learned from that experience. Now, here's an example answer to illustrate these points.
In my previous role, I had to decide to halt a project that wasn't meeting its objectives despite the team's efforts. I explained my decision to the team, emphasizing the long-term benefits and prioritized team morale by supporting them in redirecting their efforts. While it was initially unpopular, it allowed us to allocate resources more effectively.
Imagine you're faced with a complaint from a very upset stakeholder. How would you address their concerns while maintaining professionalism? This question is about your ability to handle complaints professionally and empathetically. Let's go over some key points to consider when answering this question. Listen actively to the stakeholder's concerns without interruption. Acknowledge the emotion behind their complaint to show empathy. Ask clarifying questions to fully understand the issue. Provide a clear outline of steps you will take to address their concerns. Follow up after the initial conversation to ensure resolution and satisfaction. Here's an example and answer to demonstrate how you can approach this scenario.
I would start by listening carefully to what the stakeholder has to say, allowing them to express their frustrations. I would acknowledge their feelings by saying something like, "I understand how upsetting this must be for you." Then I would ask for more details to make sure I have a complete picture. I would explain the steps I plan to take to resolve the issue and reassure them I will keep them updated.
You discover that a complaint involves a breach of ethics by a senior official. How would you handle this situation? This question examines your integrity and how you handle sensitive ethical issues. Let's review some key steps to guide you through answering this question. Thoroughly assess the evidence gathered before taking further actions. Consult internal policies and frameworks related to ethical breaches. Maintain confidentiality to protect all parties involved. Document all findings and steps taken for future reference. Approach the issue with transparency and report to necessary oversight bodies. Here's an example answer to show how these steps can be applied.
Upon discovering a breach of ethics, I would first verify the facts and consult our ethical policy. I'd then document my findings and escalate the issue to the appropriate authority while maintaining confidentiality to protect the individuals involved.
Before we wrap up, remember you can get all 30 questions, example answers, and step-by-step tips in a handy PDF. Totally free. Just grab it below.